refurbishing this handmade chair here. You can see it's pretty solidly built. It's got some paint here. Some paint markings. That'll easily come off. But, you know, overall, it's pretty cool. It's very solid. The only damage, as far as I can tell, is you can see up here, this top piece seems to have split. So I think I'll be able to get something in there to get that fixed up. But overall plan on this guy is we'll clean it up first with some simple green, wipe it down, and then, you know, get it all sanded up and nice and smoothed out. And then we'll get some stain on there, and yeah, it'll be pretty cool, nice little piece. Kind of gross. Now the reason you want to use simple green as a cleaner instead of, you know, any other like harsher chemical is because you can damage the wood and the finish, if there is a finish, depending on what you're working on. But the simple green is very, it's just really easy on any surface. So most, you know, you won't damage any of your projects you're working on, and it seems to always do a pretty good job in getting all the junk off of the, you know, surface, anything you're working on. You can see even more. Next, you can see all of that crud in there. So you can just use like a little screwdriver or a pick or whatever you have to get that out. It's kind of gross. So I'm just gonna keep scraping away. Getting all that out. this is another good tool to get. This is a multi-purpose scraper tool by Husky, but you can get them. I got this one on Amazon. You know, you can just, anything with a sharp edge. You don't necessarily want to damage, you know, you don't want to scrape super hard, but you want to just be able to get in the crevices and get any stuff out of there. Okay, once you're done cleaning whatever you're working on, the next important thing to do is you want to make sure if you have any of these old felt pads, you can remove them from the chair itself, from the legs. As you can see, these are pretty trashed. So I'll get new ones, you know, that'll be in nicer shape and it'll actually help. And this, you can see this one is actually missing one of them. So I'll show you how to take those out. It's very simple. All you need are just a set of pliers, or these are channel locks. These are kind of heavy duty, but either way, you know, you just get on them and they should pop right out. If you don't, you can also use your scraper and get just a little leverage on them. And it should, there we go. See, they come right out. And these have this little metal insert here that you actually hammer into the leg itself. So it just, we'll get something. Most of the time you can just have like the stick-on ones that just have adhesive. But these are better because these actually hold up longer. The sticky ones will sometimes get stuff on the adhesive and can come off. So these are good ones. So we'll go ahead and remove all those. So sometimes you can run into a snafu where, as you can see, the little metal insert here broke off on this one and is stuck right here. So an easy way to fix that is you just want to get some pliers and you want to get underneath it, and you can just pry that out. Kind of grip it. It'll bend up a bit. You just want to get it gripped. Pull that little guy out of there. Oh, come on, guy. There we go. You can see it's wiggling a bit. Just want to use leverage as your friend. The screwdriver. You just want to use something that you can grip it and there we go. So remember, leverage is your friend. That thing's trash, but that's okay. You can see now we got that out of there. Now this is all ready to go. It'll be sanded and we can make it work. So another important thing, like I was saying, when you're scraping out any of the junk that's in there, you can see I scraped out most of it. There's still a little bit left. But another quick tip is you can use compressed air and blow out any of the other remaining junk. So we'll do that. And now, it's nice and clean in there, see? So if you have access to a air compressor with a nozzle, definitely helpful, but you can also use, you know, like canned air, the spray air for like cleaning keyboards and stuff like that. That'll also work. But yeah. Okay, now that our chair is all clean, the next thing that I like to do before any sanding or anything is making sure I do any repairs that I need to do. So as you can see, it is a handmade chair, right? So it uses old planks, and so it kind of goes with the design. You can see down here, this makes sense. This is obviously part of that piece of wood, but my only issue I have is right here. You can see this top piece broke, and so it's kind of an odd break. You know, it's this whole piece that's split. Now, one of the methods you can use is, you know, you can actually remove this whole top piece, but sometimes that can result in adding in more work than is needed. And I've gotten stuck in that, gone down that rabbit hole where I'll start taking something apart and then it turns into a much bigger issue than I intended. So my plan for this is I'm gonna take a piece of scrap wood. I have this guy right here. Now it's obviously, you know, it's cut, it has a, it's nicely rounded, and it looks like it'll fit, you know, so I'm gonna have to do some cutting. But my plan is I'm gonna get this cut to size and get that piece in there. And the color of the wood is kind of similar. It's a little dark. I mean, you can kind of, it just depends on what you're gonna, you know, what you're gonna end up doing with it. I'm gonna be staining this chair a darker color. So I think I'll be able to pretty much match these two pieces. So I'll show you the process of that. I'm gonna get this repair going and we will, yeah, we will see how it goes. Okay, first things first, you're gonna wanna measure your, you know, damaged area here. So on this piece of wood, on this top part, you can see it's about 7 inches. So I went in my scrap pile I have here and I found this piece of wood, and this guy is 10 inches. So what you do is very simple. So you measure across to 7 inches. You make your mark. Right there. Okay. And then you're gonna wanna you take a straight edge And you can use a square, you can use a ruler, whatever you have. So I'm gonna just use this straight edge here. And you measure off. There you go. And now you have your cut line right there. Okay, once we have our line marked here, we're gonna use the bandsaw and trim this piece to size and go from there. Boom, our piece is cut to size. Now we'll head on to the next step. Okay, so now that we have this cut to length, we're gonna need to cut it to width. And you can see it's obviously way too wide. So what you wanna do is you get your measurement across the top piece here. And it's just under 1.5 inches. And so I marked on my piece of wood right here. You can see right there, just under 1.5 inches. So you mark it, and then we're gonna draw another cut line. Just wanna make sure it's all lined up. Draw cut line right there. So now you can see that's our cut line. And same thing. We're gonna cut on bandsaw. Okay, bandsaw time. Okay, I have my two pieces here cut. They're cut to length. I ended up doing two because of the distance between here and the top of the chair itself. So just as a preview, that's what it's gonna look like after. That they'll fit right in there. So my plan now is I will glue these two pieces together like so. And let them set, and then we will be on to the next part. We're gonna put our glue on our piece of wood here. You don't need much. You don't want to overdo it, but just put it on there. And then you want to smooth it out and try to coat the whole piece of wood. that. Okay, and we'll take our piece here. And set it in like that. And you want to make sure it's in there firm. So there it is. And then you always want to make sure you clamp anytime you're gluing something. So I'll grab my clamps and then we will continue. Okay, everything is now clamped on, as you can see, with my new repair. We're gonna let this guy sit overnight, and tomorrow I will come back and we will begin the sanding process. Good morning. It's the next day, and our chair is all repaired up. As you guys can see up here, this piece of wood in there, it dried nice, it's solid. I added this tiny little piece of block in there as well, just to kind of fill that in. This other piece of the wood here is kind of goes with the design that's down here. You know, that's just part of that plank. So I wasn't too worried about filling that in, but I wanted to fill in this piece up here. So now that we're done with the repair part of our project, the next step is to sand. And when you sand, the idea is you want to, you know, smooth out any rough spots of the piece of furniture, and you also want to give, when you sand, it gives the wood, you know, some tooth to it, and it'll help grab onto any stain you're going to use, or paint, or whatever, however you're going to go about your finishing up your project. So today I am gonna be using a orbital sander. I'm gonna start with 120 grit sandpaper and just use my orbital sander. And the other method you can use also is you could do a hand sanding, but this takes more time, and it's good. You can do it, you know, it all just really depends on your preference. But for me, I'm gonna do the orbital sander. Makes things go a little bit quicker. And after that, I am gonna use a gel stain. Now I got this is by Varathane. Minwax makes some too, and this is a thicker stain. But the beauty with this stuff is you can wipe it on, and then you leave it on for a couple minutes, and it gets absorbed into the wood, and then after that you wipe it away, and this stuff dries pretty quickly. This dries within 2 hours, and you can add your second coat. So after that, we'll do after our sanding, we'll do our first coat of stain, and yeah, we'll see how it turns out. Okay guys, so I have my sander already. This is just a Velcro disc here, and it's pretty easy. This is 120 grit. Put it on there, and we're ready to go. One quick thing in regards to sanding, anytime you sand any piece of wood, you always want to sand with the grain, and you want to go in the path of how the grain goes on the wood. You don't, as you can see, this grain moves up towards the back of the chair. So when you sand, you want to always sand going this way and back. You never want to go up and down, right? So same thing up here. You want to go with the grain of the wood, because if you don't do that and you go up and down, right, against the grain of the wood, it will, you can cause scratches, and it'll cause you a headache later on. So we're ready to get sanding. I wear gloves to protect my hands, and you can also wear a mask if you'd like. I have the door open, so we have good ventilation. I'm not going to be getting too much sawdust everywhere. I don't plan on doing that, at least, but that's always smart to, you know, have your wear your protective equipment anytime. So we're ready to do that, and we'll get started sanding. Okay, so our chair is pretty well sanded now. Now this is a handmade kind of old style rustic chair. So I'm not gonna fully sand it down to bare wood. I'm gonna kind of keep some of the darker spots on it just to kind of add, because it adds to the character of the chair itself. Now, as you can see, you remember that paint that we had, it all comes off when you're sanding, which is nice. I have a couple little spots right there. If you can see that, I have that little purple there and a little bit there. So any touch up like that, you can simply fix using just going in by hand. So I have a piece of 120 here, and I'm gonna just lightly hit those remaining spots that I couldn't quite get with my orbital sander, and should be good to go. So there we go. So that's all that extra paint and stuff was off. And then you can also see right through here, my orbital sander couldn't quite get through there. So again, you just do touch up. And so I'm gonna go ahead and keep sanding, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. Okay, so our sanding is complete for right now for this. Like I said earlier, I'm leaving a little bit of the old finish on there just to kind of, I think it'll go with the rustic look to kind of have some different tones in there. But overall, the chair is all nice and smooth. I hit all the areas that are gonna be getting the stain. So the next step that we do is you want to make sure you clean the chair again, because any extra sawdust on here, like you can see, that will, if you get stain on the sawdust, it'll clump up and it's not fun to work with. Sometimes you can get that, and then you'll have some like rough spots in your finished product, and that's always a hassle. So the ticket is you can use mineral spirits or just paint thinner. I always just use some paint thinner, and put this on a rag, and you'll wipe the whole thing down. And the beauty with this stuff is it evaporates very quickly. So you can do this, wipe it down, and it'll dry within a few minutes. And then we'll get our first coat of stain on. So it's a sunny day outside too, so I'm gonna probably do this outside, and it'll make it go even faster. Alrighty, so we have our chair all sanded up and cleaned off with the paint thinner. And like I was saying earlier, as you can see, all that extra little paint, the purple and green and yellow that was here is all gone. So any paint or stuff like that, you can easily get off with some sandpaper. You don't want to go too hard unless you want to strip it fully down to bare wood. But I did more of like a scuff sanding on this because I want to kind of keep some of the older, some of the other tones in here, because it is like a rustic older chair. So we're all prepped for staining. I'm going to get my area situated for the first coat, and we'll get rolling on that. Okay, so I got my surface ready. I just have a piece of cardboard down so I don't get any drops on the bench. This is what we're going to be working with here. This is that Varathane gel stain, and the cool thing about this is it's a little thicker, and you put it on and you just let it kind of absorb in for a couple minutes, and then you can wipe away the excess with a cloth. I'm gonna wipe this on. This stuff supposedly dries within 2 hours. You can do, after your first coat, you can apply your second coat. So it's gonna make it go a lot quicker. I am gonna apply it just using a cloth. I get these rags in a bag at Home Depot. You know, you can get a bunch. They're clean, and they're you know, they work really well. They're very they don't leave, from my experience, they don't seem to leave any you know, fibers or anything like that. And if they do, they're really small, and you can just easily, you know, get them out. But I haven't run into any issues with that. But you want to make sure you use a clean one to apply, and you want to have one is your applicator, one is your wipe cloth. So you want to have two separate cloths. And then when you're done with this, you want to make sure you put it in a place where it's not going to get sawdust or any other stuff on it. So we'll get this open and we'll get our first coat on. Okay, so our first coat of the gel stain is on, as you can see. It goes on pretty easy, and like I said, this just has to take about 2 hours to dry. There's still a couple light spots, but that'll fill in with the second coat. And also, our little repair took to that gel stain really nicely, so I'm happy with how that turned out. So anyway, so we're just gonna let this sit, let this dry, and yeah, we'll come back when it's time to do our second coat. Okay, we're back. We're gonna be doing our second coat here. It's been about 2.5 hours, and I believe the stain has dried pretty nicely. You can see the wood has really absorbed it well, and I think it's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna get this adjusted, and we'll get our second coat going. Okay, our second coat is on, and I think it looks pretty nice. So I'm gonna let this thing fully dry overnight, and then I think I'm gonna come back in the morning, and I will hit it with some a top coat. I'll just do a spray on polyurethane. You can use, you know, they have satin, gloss, different kinds, but I think I'll just go with a clear satin. That'll just protect it, depending on whoever ends up purchasing this. If they're gonna put it inside, outside, whatever they're gonna do with it, it'll protect it and protect the finish. So it's important to always try to do a top coat. I know it's one extra step, but it's worth it. And one other thing with, a quick tip in between coats. Sometimes you can sand in between coats. You'll do, like I did a 120 grit on this. And then usually after you apply your first coat, you can go over with like a 220 grit, something a little more finer, and just get those uneven surfaces extra smooth. I ended up just going one time sanding with the 120 before my first coat because of the type of chair this is, how it's handmade and looks kind of old. So I figured I'd kind of leave it as is and put my second coat on. So that's the beauty with working with older pieces, is that you can make them anything you want them to be. You can turn them into anything, so you can't really mess anything up on this. So this is the we're about 95% done. So yeah, in the morning we'll put our top coat on and we'll see what the finished product looks like. Good morning. This is the final day of our project. I let the second coat dry completely overnight. As you can see, it looks pretty nice. Now we're going to be doing our final steps in regards to getting this project complete. Now that the second coat of stain is dry, I'm going to be spraying it down with this polyurethane satin. This is a clear satin polyurethane sealer, and it's a top coat. This stuff's oil-based. This is really good. The other thing you can use is Varathane makes a stain that has the poly in it already, so that would remove this additional step you need to do. But I use the gel stain, and the gel stain doesn't have that. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray this stuff on. This stuff dries within 4 hours, and then you can apply your second coat, which is nice. So I'm gonna get the first coat on now, and then later on I will apply the second coat, and we should be good to go. The other thing, I got some new felt glides for the feet, so I'll get those put in. That'll be our final step. So we will get all prepared for that, for the spraying, and yeah, we'll be ready to go. Okay guys, another quick tip. When you're using any type of aerosol spray, like, spray paint, or especially these this polyurethane top coat, when you spray this stuff, it's real nasty. So I have gloves, as you can see, and then another thing you want to get yourself are some masks, just some N95s at Home Depot. They have a bunch. You can use a respirator, but I go with these. These are nice. They're pretty cheap too. You get a 3-pack. They were like $5. So always make sure you have proper protection when you're using chemicals, and because you want to protect yourself. You don't want to breathe in any of that junk. So we'll get ready, and we'll get to spraying. Okay guys, I got my mask on, and when you use this stuff, you just want to, for your first coat, you want to do a nice even light coat. You don't need to go super thick on it. So you just want to make sure you touch all the areas and get it nicely coated, and then you'll let it dry for 4 hours, and should be ready for the second coat later today. All right, so our first coat of poly is on, and it looks pretty nice. So we're gonna let this sit, let it dry about 4 hours. I'll come back later on today and get our second coat on and get our felt glides on, and we'll be all good to go. All right guys, now is the time. It dried, and so we're gonna get these little felt feet put on there. I'm gonna just reuse the holes that were there before, so it gives us a really easy hammering point. So all you do, very easy, you take a mallet and your little felt glides, and we're gonna line it up. And tap it in. Okay, so our little feet are all in, all 4 holes, and now we're gonna put our final coat of the top coat on, that polyurethane, and wrap this thing up. Okay, well there you have it. We're gonna let this thing fully dry overnight, but I think we had a pretty nice transformation from that old chair into this nicely refurbished piece.